So, you've now got a camera, you've now got a lens, you may have bought some filters and a microphone. You're on good ground to start shooting some content. But what's going to happen when you need to edit it? You will need some sort of workstation. Firstly, there's the great debate around Mac or PC. Now, Macs are great as they're designed around the creative sector. They have fast processors, high pixel displays, some with Retina display which gives you an even sharper image with more colours. Now, a lot has changed in the graphics and video field since the early 2000s. Now we're dealing with full HD and 4K video. The files that content creators use have gotten bigger and bigger. Even though Mac doesn't churn out great software as they used to, it has retained important features that editors can benefit from. So Macs have the best ports and gadgets for large file transfers. Now, Macs are also very user-friendly and have a great limited jargon about them. You can get a clean interface and a fast, reliable machine. Macs can be quite costly though, and they are limited in terms of upgrades. So for example, if you wanted to upgrade your processor in a Mac, instead of just buying a new processor, you would need to go and buy a new Mac. PCs on the other hand have the usability that the majority of us are used to. So they may be not as fast as Macs, but they do have plenty of other pros, such as the ability to change practically everything in the PC. You also have the ability to build a PC using thousands of different components. So if you wanted an Intel graphics card or an AMD graphics card, you have the choice. So what should you look for when buying a PC or a Mac for video editing? First is the processor. Think of this as the brains of the computer. Now, processors allow for all of the computer parts to communicate together to complete a task based on what you tell it to do. Generally, the more cores and higher gigahertz, the faster the processor. Now, these are one of the most expensive bits in a computer, but one of the things I would say invest in early on, because having a faster processor means your PC can think and work faster. RAM comes next. Now, RAM stands for Random Access Memory, which has a direct path to the processor. Think of RAM as the nerves in your PC. The more nerves or the more RAM that you have, the faster information is sent to the processor, and in turn, the faster tasks are carried out. There's a bit of speculation around more RAM meaning programs run faster, but personally, after upgrading from 16GB to 32GB, I only noticed a slight difference in some areas. Yes, Premiere Pro was quicker, however After Effects didn't show me much of a boost in terms of frames per second or playback. RAM is primarily designed to allow you to use more programs at once, such as Premiere and After Effects at the same time. Generally, if you have 8GB of RAM, then you would be able to edit 1080p footage. 16GB of RAM would give you 4K footage with no issues, 32GB of RAM will let you easily edit 4K 60 frames per second, and if you are going to go up to 64GB, then you'll be able to edit 8K footage and run things like After Effects effortlessly. If you are looking for RAM, make sure that your RAM is labelled as DDR4 and not DDR3. DDR4 RAM is the industry standard right now. But if you buy DDR3, which is often a lot cheaper, the system will be outdated. Next is your graphics card. Now, your graphics card is the eyes of your computer. This piece of equipment allows all of the information to be put together in a way that displays it well on the screen. Graphics cards matter a lot for gaming, with higher end graphics cards allowing more frames per second, but they do play a vital part in video editing. Premiere Pro allows you to enable something called GPU acceleration, which means it will use the RAM from your graphics card alongside the RAM from your PC to allow programs to run smoother and faster. Now onto storage. The drives in your computer are essentially parts of the brain. This is where everything is stored, and you're going to have a need for storage when you're producing videos. Now, there are two types of storage drives. There's a HDD or a hard disk drive, which is a physical spinning disk, and an SSD or a solid state drive, which has no mechanical parts and are all digital. In a video editing environment, the speed of editing depends on several factors, one of which is video files being read from and writing back onto the storage disk, which is known as drive speed. Solid state drives access information pretty much instantaneously, as they don't have any moving parts. That makes them about 4 times faster than a hard disk drive, whilst hard disk drives run at relatively slow speeds with its mechanical moving parts. So there are some factors to think about. Generally, do you want speed or do you want storage space? Now, speedier drives such as SSDs will be more expensive than HDDs purely because of their speed, whereas HDDs aren't as fast, but you can get a lot more bang for your buck. This 1TB WD Elements external hard drive is about £40. Now, a terabyte is 1000 gigabytes, so that's a lot of storage space. Whereas this 1TB SSD comes in at about £140, which is a substantial price increase. In terms of speed, however, the SSD is a lot faster than the HDD. So, is it speed or capacity that you're after? This is one of the things that you will need to ask yourself. Next, we need to look at practicality. So generally, SSDs are much quieter due to not having any moving parts, which in turn increases the lifespan. If you drop an SSD or bang it by accident, there is less chance of the data corrupting and the SSD actually breaking. Whereas with a HDD, one knock may dislodge an internal component and corrupt all of your data, which is not ideal at all. So with that in mind, should you build or should you buy? Honestly, I would say it's a better investment to build your PC, or have one built for you so you can build it based on your exact needs. A lot of off-the-shelf PCs will be better in some areas than others. For example, a standard workstation PC may run programs like Office fast, but will struggle with video production. Gaming PCs, on the other hand, will cost more, but will run programs like After Effects and Premiere a lot more smoothly. Now don't get me wrong, you can buy a solid editing workstation outright, but you will be stuck to the manufacturer's cooling, motherboard and other components. My own setup consists of an Intel i5 processor which runs at 3.4 GHz. I also have 32 GB of RAM installed, which allows me to run several programs at once. I have an Nvidia GTX 1060 graphics card with 4 GB of VRAM. Now this setup easily allows me to edit 4K files and run seamlessly with the Canon 250D footage. The 1DX makes this a bit harder as the files are bigger and there's more demand for the PC. As you can see here, the footage from the 250D is playing back a lot smoother than the footage from the 1DX. You also see that the raw file sizes differ significantly, so playback can be quite tricky. But it's as easy as changing the playback quality in Premiere Pro to make sure that you can edit it. Now if I was to start upgrading to a RED camera and start shooting RED footage, then my PC would struggle and I would need to look at upgrading my processor. I also have a 1TB internal SSD and a 500GB internal SSD. As for the external drives, I have two 1TB external hard disk drives. Now this setup cost me around £1,200 back in 2017, but it has not let me down yet. One of my key selling points for video production services is a quick turnaround, and having a quick PC has let me finish projects quicker, leading to more referrals, so the PC paid itself off in no time. Having used both Mac and PC, personally I prefer PC. Now this is purely because of the fact that I can whip the side off and change components if I ever needed to. For example, if I upgrade my camera and my existing CPU can't handle it, I can upgrade the CPU. Or if I need a new graphics card, I can do that easily. Now with all that said, the minimum requirements for Adobe Premiere Pro are an Intel 6th generation processor or newer, 8GB of RAM and 2GB of VRAM. But it's always worth thinking about trying to future-proof your investment if you can afford it. Remember, a faster computer means faster editing time, quicker turnaround for clients, and ultimately more projects, which means more money for you. So that's it for Workstations, but if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a shout.